Hey, what's going on, guys? In today's video, I'm going to show you guys my controller settings. A couple people in my comments actually asked for my controller settings and stuff, and so did a couple of my friends, so I decided that I was going to make a video out of it because I thought it would be like a little bit more easier to explain but also to show. And this is mainly going to be a controller settings video. I'm also going to be showing you guys a little bit of like my Steam controller settings as well, and a little bit of the PlayStation accessory app or whatever it's called for my DualSense Edge. And I do apologize if I don't sound right, or you know, I'm a little bit stuttering and stuff. I'm just not really used to talking directly into the camera, and I do have like a little bit of a sore throat, so I hope you guys can actually like, you know, deal with it or whatever. But yeah, let's get straight into it. We're gonna start off with the Interag prom style. I actually do recommend to keep it on compact. If you are experienced or know this game very well, I do recommend to keep it on compact, and it's so that the menu themselves doesn't seem to be weird or whatever when you're actually like picking up like attachments and stuff. I actually think that it makes it look a little bit better as well. I actually recently just switched over to it, and it actually does seem to make a difference. Got my button hints on just so you guys would be able to see my controller binds. What's called damage feedback, and definitely for sure keep it on X. It's very helpful, and you don't really want it to be like shield icon when you can already like, you know, see their shield when you're spraying at them, or just be able to see the color. So this is definitely better to have it on X. Number stacking makes it so much easier when you're like spraying on them and stuff like, because like it just stacks up the numbers automatically. Enemy health bar, make sure that this is enabled. Enemy highlights, make sure that this is also enabled. Minimap rotations, definitely for sure keep this on, so that, you know, when you're like turning anywhere in any single direction in the actual game itself on the minimap, it's gonna, you know, show you exactly right where to go for zone and stuff. So this is definitely a must-have. Jetpack / guide. So what this setting is if you're Valkyrie and you have like your jetpack and stuff, you could either like hold it down or toggle it. But like if you're like a claw player, highly do recommend to keep it on hold. If you play with paddles, keep it on hold. But if you're playing standard and you don't like to take your thumbs off the joystick so much, I highly do recommend to keep it on toggle, because it's just like pretty easy. All you do is like press it,
wings out,
goes up, and then you press it again, it stops. But if like you're like, you know, playing claw or paddles and stuff like that, it might be so much easier just to hold it.
Better get an upgrade locked
Incoming
in.
damage feedback, keep it on 2D. Now this is also another important setting right here. Taking damage closes that box or crafting menu. So if you keep the setting on, it actually does affect you pretty badly when you know, you're trying to grab some ammo, trying to grab some bats, or like you're trying to grab the evil core or whatever. You know, you don't want to like get shot once and immediately like get kicked out of it, you know, so make sure to keep that off. Some of these right here are just like defaulted, so don't worry about that. Portrait turned off. Hop up, pop up, and stuff like, I guess keep that on. Streamer mode, keep that off. Anonymous mode, personal preference. Usage sharing, I just keep it on. Performance display, make sure to keep this on. You want to make sure that you see your FPS and your ping.
Sitting on the runway, burning daylight.
Okay, so now we're gonna get over to the Reticle. I really don't care about these settings right here, but the Reticle is what I actually do care about, and it's just generally the Reticle or like the crosshair itself of like what color it is when you're ADSing and stuff. I highly do recommend at least yellow, pink, and cyan. I mainly use cyan and yellow. I don't really use any of the colors, and it's so that I can like see the enemies a little bit better when I'm like actually ADSing at them, which makes it so much easier for me to Alright, for colorblind, I just keep it on Patanopia, or like you usually I'll probably switch it over to the default, or just off, because I actually think that those two are like the best to actually have. The other ones just kind of make the what's it called, the body armor and the bots and stuff like that look a little bit weird. It doesn't really look right, and so I just recommend to either keep it off or try Inopia, which makes a little bit more of the colors actually pop up, which is like so much better. Alright, that's pretty much it for the colorblind and stuff like that. These are just like all turned off, not really important. A little bit of a scan through for my, keyboard and mouse settings and stuff like that, even though I don't really like play keyboard and mouse. My mouse DPI is 1600. I actually switched over to it, I think, like a month ago. It's a little bit easier to actually edit videos and stuff like that, and especially just like being able to only use my wrist. Or at least like the best ones that I do recommend is at least 800 to 1600, which is like, like pretty much one of the best. If you go any lower, I would say it's a little bit slow, but it's definitely doable, I guess. Like some people actually do play 400 and stuff, but yeah. Mouse sensitivity 1.40 and my ADSing 0.9. I sometimes just keep this at 1 as well, depending on how I feel about aiming and whatever. These are pretty much the binds for it, scroll wheeling and stuff like that or whatever, just so I can also tap strafe with my touchpad and stuff like that or whatever on my PlayStation controller. Yeah, pause it. You can pause the video at any time just to like, to look at it. But I just want to like, move on from this because there's nothing special. Now we're on my controller settings and stuff. My button layouts. I actually do play customized. Controller settings and stuff, because like I do like to go into like games and I actually do like to change my settings, because I actually do play claw, and it's very useful to actually put some of my stuff on my D-pad or like my touchpad, which makes gameplay so much easier. But like if you play standard and you don't have any like paddles, or you don't play claw, I would say bumper jumper, button puncher, or evolved is like the 3 best settings for like non-claw players. But also if you don't like have paddles, these are like the best. Or if you do have paddles, maybe like bumper jumper could be nice if you like you want to change like the buttons around in the back for like punching or interacting or whatever. Alright guys, so for my Steam controller, I actually do use gyro in a couple of my games and stuff. And I actually did watch a video on Misery's gyro tab strafe video, and I'm gonna leave a link down in the descriptions if you actually do want to use gyro or do want to tap strafe on controller. But you can only use gyro on a PlayStation and Nintendo Switch controller. You can't really use gyro on a on like an Xbox controller or whatever. For tap strafing, I don't know how that's gonna work, because I only know that tap strafing is okay with using a touchpad, because it's not really a macro, it's a digital scroll wheel. Alright, so these are pretty much all my binds and stuff like that or whatever. I actually did sacrifice my left bumper over to use gyro and stuff. And my map is actually my share button or select or whatever it's called on my PlayStation controller. I'm pretty sure it's called the share button, but yeah, I have that as my map, and it's so like much easier to actually reach. Joysticks, so yeah, I actually have the joysticks customized. Nothing here is like really being touched, nor is it down here. It's just specifically the dead zone. I actually want to move my joystick a little bit so it at least registers a little bit fast. And so I have it on customized. If you don't like to play with like no dead zone at all, or like no stick drift, I highly recommend that you play with like no dead zone. But for me, I actually want to like be able to have like full motion or full movement, or like even like full control of my joystick. So I have this like all the way up and this all the way down in order to like have like better access to my joystick. Alright, for my touchpad, I actually have this set it up as in like a couple things, as in like scroll wheel, select, and you know, like interacting in like my heat shield and stuff. You don't really need to do all this, but I just like to, and it makes it so much easier to actually like press either like the left or like the right side of my touchpad, and it actually does open it up so that you're able to do more. You can't really use the touchpad to do anything else if you're playing on console, but on PC you get like the full benefits of like being able to use it in any sort of way you want. My gyro settings here, I am actually gonna make a video on Overwatch of like my gyro settings if you guys want to see that, or like just in general, like, you know, my Overwatch controller settings. I mean, I think that'd be pretty dope. Okay, guys, so for the PlayStation controller accessory settings and stuff like that, I actually do mainly play with like the default, and it's because on Steam itself I can use the paddles to be reassigned through Steam itself, but only through Steam games and or whatever. Like specifically, these buttons act on their own when you're actually playing on Steam, but if like you're playing like on console, or like if you already have like the buttons already selected in different profiles and stuff, it's not gonna work. So you actually have to change it over to default in order for it to actually register or do anything. Yeah, but these are the other like profiles. So if I was like playing on console, this would be you know, my binds and stuff like that. Nothing done to the joysticks at all in any of the profiles, just changing the paddles up. I actually don't jump with my left paddle anymore. I actually only crouch with it in Call of Duty as well. This is pretty much just like old Fortnite. Don't really use paddles on Fortnite or whatever. The only game I actually use paddles with claw is Apex. All right, bringing it back to the Apex settings, and stuff. I actually, coming back to the Apex settings, I do have hold to crouch on. It does really make it easier when I'm like sliding off things, or like sliding into things, or just like keeping momentum. Adaptive triggers, make sure to keep this off. You don't want it to affect your triggers. Triggers definitely keep it at none, just so that way, you know, like it would actuate a little bit faster, especially even if you have like trigger stoppers, or even without them, it still registers pretty nicely. Menu crosshair, personal preference. You don't need to copy mines, but I just usually keep mines up here. You could probably have it down here, and it would still like be like, you know, pretty fast or pretty good. Movement slash aiming, I actually don't use any of these at all, but I definitely know that like the best settings for them is 4-3 linear. 4-3 linear is generally the go-to setting, definitely for sure, but I just don't really use them. Alright, so for my advanced settings, I actually do play with 1% dead zone, and then outer threshold of 3, and a response curve of 3. And the reason why this is exactly put in this sort of type of way is so that I don't have too much stick drift, but also the outer threshold allows me to like turn around or like flick a little bit faster. And the response curve, it's so that I can actually feel like the recoil when I'm actually like pulling down and stuff, and so it's like to like you know, balance it out and stuff. Pre-optic settings, I actually had them like ×2 in every single one, all the way up till 8. My yaw and pitch speed are both 440. This is really good, and it does allow me to like, you know, turn around and track decently well. But I do recommend that you at least play like 350, which is like, I would say like the minimum you want to play, or at least like 320 at least. And it really does help you out with your hip firing. And to actually make that feel a little bit better, you can turn on your extra turning, and it actually does feel a slight difference. And it's so that when you're actually aiming at the bots and stuff, or like just at least like at the players, it starts to slow down. Like if you have like extra turning, it feels super fast, but once you aim at the bot, it like does slow down like a lot, and then you can feel like the aim assist like kick in. Yeah, for ADSing, I actually play 140, but the lowest that I would probably go is 110, and then have a little bit of extra turning. I actually before didn't actually use any extra turning for any of these. Before I just either played like 130, 135, 150. Those were like the ones that I actually use, or like the max that I would either go up to, or like the lowest that I would go to. And I would say that that's like the best range, and especially having a little bit of extra turning combined with the 140 actually does make like an actual difference. Like I can redirect a little bit better and faster. I obviously highly do recommend control, and especially for like having better control over your joystick, they really do help. And especially they give you like a better range when like you're aiming or even like moving around and stuff, you know. Like, you know, not everybody can like really play with the low rise joysticks and stuff, so you know they either like put on control freaks and stuff to actually help them out with their aim. And it really does help. Like, you really get a good amount of control over your joysticks. Yeah, if you guys are actually planning on getting control freaks, I will leave a link down in the description for my video settings. I actually play with everything like just low. Like, this may not apply to like console players, but like for PC, I actually just play with like the lowest that it possibly can go down to. And the reason why is because, like, you know, I have a 3050 NVIDIA graphics card with a Ryzen 5 CPU. So yeah, I'm pretty much playing with like a low budgeted PC. For brightness, I actually play 75, and it's just so that I can see like a little bit more better, like in the dark, or just like even around like the world and stuff like that. It actually does look really nice and very bright. So yeah. FOV, I actually do recommend to at least play 106 to 108. 110 is really good and stuff, but I'm pretty sure it does reduce a little bit of your FPS. So yeah, if like you feel like your FPS is dropping to a good amount, definitely switch over to 108 and see if it makes a difference. Audio settings, I actually have this fully maxed up. Have my headset 7.1 surrounding and stuff like that to actually, like, you know, be able to hear a little bit more. Alright, for my voice chat, I actually do use like feet buttons or feet pedals, whatever they're called, to actually talk to people. So that's the way how I usually like am communicating with my teammates or my friends and stuff. Music all the way down to 0. Gameplay while spectating 90%, or at least like I usually have it on like 80. But right now I could just like maybe have it like in between and it still sounds good. I do apologize if I didn't sound right, if I was stuttering, or if like I was like clearing my throat a lot. I do feel a little bit sick and stuff. But I really wanted to put this video out because, you know, I was like asked about it, and yeah, you know, just wanted to try something else that's like a little bit different, but also to like talk to you guys a little bit more. I was actually planning on not talking, but then afterwards my friend actually convinced me to talk in it because, you know, it would probably seem better and stuff. Alright, let me know in the comments if you guys actually do want to see a little bit more videos of me playing with control freaks, because I know in like my older videos, or like in some of my old videos, my aim is actually way better with control freaks than they are without them and stuff like that. And then I know that like a couple people actually did complain about my aim not being that great and stuff, and it's because like I don't get too much practice on here, and then I do not have like a set schedule to upload videos, but also I don't play this game like as lot as and stuff like that. So yeah. Yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed, and peace, I guess.